So I think there's definitely an incentive for someone like Jensen Huang and Lisa Su to say open weight's better.
In China, what you could do is raise some amount of money, grab one of these open source models, hire a bunch of really smart people from the local university, and then just...
At the end of the day, what matters more than efficiency of training is efficiency of inference.
Welcome to Supply Chain. I'm John from Asianometry.
I'm Tim Culpin from Culpium.
You know, what's the big controversy right now going on across the Pacific, Tim?
Oh boy, there's so many controversies, but I think we're going to talk about AI, right?
Oh, really? AI? AI again?
Again? Is it a thing? Is it going to be a thing?
AI, it's only changing the world.
So it's not a thing.
Not a thing. Not a thing at all.
Yeah, it is a big deal. Everybody's talking about AI open models versus closed models.
Yeah.
That's a big controversy.
I think it started with the Kimi K3 release, right?
That's right. Kimi K3 came out with a gazillion and one parameters. I think it was 2.4
8 trillion. Yeah, 2.8 trillion.
trillion parameters.
Yeah.
And people say it was really good.
Yeah.
Of course, the Americans say that it was distilled.
Right.
And it didn't help that some people went and asked Kimi's name, and Kimi said, "My name is Claude."
Right.
So that probably didn't make the case for Kimi much better. But the bigger issue, I think, is also the recent petition from a lot of tech companies in the US. And Jensen Huang is now on Twitter,
Yep.
X, to basically push his line that we should allow open models, by which I think he means open weight models, because they're not open source. A lot of people conflate those. Open source and open weight are not the same.
Yeah.
And it's really become this China versus US debate has distilled. That's right, distilled down to open weight versus closed models. But I think one issue that I'm noticing, John, is that people conflate the two, that open means Chinese and closed means American, but that's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, you do have open weight US models and you do have closed Chinese models.
Yeah, I think
It's the general principle that both sides are taking, but it's not necessarily the case that one has to be one or the other.
you know, it's kind of interesting what open weight actually means. It means that the weights are available to be downloaded, but you don't get the data behind it, right? The pre-training data, the RL data, all that stuff, that's not available. So it's kind of curious that that a lot of people who are advocating for openness are really, I mean, I guess maybe they were taking they're saying, oh, compared to the closed source, whatever stuff, we're having it's better. I think that's the sort of the distinction here.
It's a bit simplistic, though, I think. I think of it in some ways as Linux versus, Windows or Mac OS. But there is a big difference. Now, the thing about Linux is, yes, anybody theoretically could download Linux and create their own distribution, and there was a lot of reasons why Linux is better than Windows or Mac OS. But look, in the commercial consumer area, nobody uses Linux. And it's really only geeks like me who use Linux. So the fact that it's better is not necessarily the point. But I think the other issue that really matters with open weight versus closed is with open weight models, yes, you can download them and tweak them yourself, but who's going to? Consumers are not going to do that. I don't think most consumers would know how to tweak the weights. And so what is buried within the weights? What is buried within the model? Clearly, one of the issues is, basically censorship, right? It is embedded into many Chinese models. You try and bring up, the term Tiananmen Square or June 4, and you'll get a response that will not be very satisfactory to a Western audience. Theoretically, you could change the weights and remove that censorship, but what else is in there?
Well, but then you have to bring up the fact that a lot of the Western models they have the safety triggers on, I think in the cybersecurity, the biology stuff, if you write biology into Fable 5 or something, it shuts down.
Yeah.
And I think that with that Hugging Face hack.
Yeah.
Like famously, right? They had to use a Chinese
Open
GLM
weight.
5.2 open weight model to actually diagnose what the heck was going on, because they tried to diagnose what was going on with the cybersecurity thing. It just said nope.
Not going to do it.
So I mean, it's kind of an interesting sort of dynamic there. You're using a model from a Chinese company to
an open weight model to patch the problems of a closed model. To me, I think as more of a hardware geek as much as an AI geek, the issue that I'm most interested in is the efficiency. And this is something that Ben Thompson brought up and I wrote about, is at the end of the day, what matters more than efficiency of training is efficiency of inference.
Mm-hmm.
And 18 months ago when DeepSeek came out and they said, it only cost us a few $1 million to train this, and, we did it on the back of a Raspberry Pi and, it was easy. That was the training, right? And I don't believe that the numbers they put out were true, but even if they were, what really matters is the cost of inference. And I think it's generally understood that the Chinese approach to inference is more compute intensive. And so I think that's fascinating, because in the end, the whole debate about which is lighter versus heavier training, which is this big debate now, we can do it for less compute cycles than the Americans do with their big fat heavy models and their big fat heavy compute. I think in the long term, 5, 10, 20 years from now, it won't matter. No one will care. It's a great kind of talking point now, but in the long term, I think the conversation will move on. But do you think that Jensen Huang, for example, is pro open weight?
Yeah.
Seems most of Silicon Valley, except Anthropic. Do you think there's some kind of hidden agenda behind Jensen taking that approach, or is he just genuinely interested in being open?
I think it's kind of like, if you look back, the thing that pops into my mind is like, in the beginning, you had all these integrated single service, like mini computers, right? Like back in the 70s or 80s. And like that was at that time, you had these really end-to-end services provided by like billion-dollar companies, maybe $1 or $2 billion. They kind of wanted to be like IBM. They provided special services to financial companies or whatever. And a lot of those companies died out, I would say, in the 1990s or 1980s and 1990s, probably in the 90s, mostly because you had this new unstoppable combination here of open source Linux, which is an OS, and like just very cheap silicon coming from Intel, right?
Yeah.
So I think what maybe could be maybe not necessarily Jensen could totally be just supporting this on just for ideological grounds. But if you can see sort of like where his mind is thinking, right? Open source models plus cheap or just expensive iron, or not iron, but like silicon from NVIDIA, put that together, and what that eventually, if it goes the same way it goes with Linux and Xeon processors, I mean that basically steamrolls everyone else.
Yeah.
They'll wipe out a whole generation of closed source companies.
I also think that if you're developing an open weight model, and therefore when you have to spend all the time to develop the model and you're putting it out there in the world, you're not necessarily going to get all of the inference that comes from it. You're not going to get the demand side of it. So your incentive to go out and develop your own chips is much lower. If you're OpenAI or Anthropic or Google, you go out, you develop your own models, closed weight, closed source. It's just you. You don't let anyone else have access to the insides of it. You are incentivized to find a more efficient compute, both on the training and on the inference. And you have control over it because it's just you. But if you're not, if it's just everybody kind of running the same thing and tweaking it themselves, they might as well use off the shelf. And right now, off the shelf is NVIDIA and AMD. So I think there's definitely an incentive for someone like Jensen Huang and Lisa Su to say open weight's better, because it undermines the financial and technological incentive for somebody to go and make customized chips. Now, theoretically, somebody could look at what DeepSeek or Moonshot or any of the other open weight model makers are doing in China and say, we're going to develop ASICs specifically for that approach. But you spend all the time and money doing that, and you're not necessarily getting the benefit unless you can be sure that all the people using those models decide to come to you and buy your super efficient, highly tuned silicon, because it's gone out there in the world, everybody's using it, and so they want the best compute and the most efficient compute, so they come to you. So there might be a chance for someone to decide we're going to build silicon around some of these open weight models. But given that you don't have any moat I think the incentive is too risky to try.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think of Ben's latest post when he talked a little bit about this open source question? And I think he talked about, I think that he had a bunch of recommendations, but the one I thought was most wild, I guess, was like he wanted the American government to basically allow distillation.
Yeah.
Legal.
I think distillation is wrong, but at the same time, a lot of critics of Anthropic and OpenAI point out that these companies distill basically all the content that you and I and everybody in the world have made to build their models.
That's true. You would say there's a portion of that is true, of course, 100%. Another portion of that is like a lot of that is post-training. A lot of that data, as we know, is collected and purchased and has to be generated, right? Like the data where it tells the guy to upload to buy something on Amazon, and the whole website has to be created just for that, and people have to be paid to train for that, and also like for coding problems, right? For difficult coding problems, like people are paid on what I've heard is like on the level of AI researchers, basically to solve the hardest coding problems that not even a regular AI could solve.
Right.
So that's proprietary data that's being distilled too.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. That reminds me of something that happened 25, 30 years ago when the internet just started going, and the big names then were Yahoo, Lycos, Alta Vista. They were actually paying people to go and write articles on topics.
Yeah.
So they could put them online.
Right.
And
that's how Naver got big in Korea.
Right. And Google came along and said, no, just let people create their own content and we'll just hoover all that up and use it. And that was a better approach.
Right.
And to the idea of forcing model makers to do open source or open weight, I don't think that's a go. I don't think that should work. I don't think they should be prevented from doing it. If there is a foundation or a company out there that wants to create open weight models in the US, great, make them open weight, but forcing, I think, is anathema to what America stands for in choice.
I don't think he actually says like force them, but I think he says like make it legal or something like that. Yeah.
Well, that's the other part of this question about making open weight models legal or illegal in America. The question I think needs to be asked is, are you talking about all open weight models should be allowed in America? Or are you saying only Chinese open weight models should be banned in America? Or are you saying all Chinese models should be banned in America? What exactly is it that is being proposed, and what is it that Jensen Huang and dozens of signatories are writing petitions about? Are they talking about open weight, or are they talking about Chinese models?
Right.
Because we conflate them. A lot of people conflate the two, and it's important to divide the two because right now, one side is mostly going towards open weight, and Xi Jinping gave a speech at the World AI Conference in Shanghai where he basically said we need to embrace that. And when Xi Jinping says it, the emperor says open weight, everybody's going to have to orient their whole business, their funding, their approach, everything around that, because now this is the word from on high in Beijing. I don't think those holdouts in China who are doing closed weights will last very long.
But is anyone doing closed weights in China right now?
Like ByteDance?
ByteDance?
Yeah.
They have their chat app, right? Doubi. I think the interesting thing is kind of like you have this company, CXMT, which just raised whatever billions of dollars, and now it's like a $500 billion company, and validates what they call like the Hefei model, right? Where basically local municipalities or provinces basically invest in just sling money at like wild VC bets. Do you think we're going to see like every province in China start like investing in neo labs, like trying to get their own DeepSeek or get that?
I think they would want to, yeah, because I think it's really important to look at the way China works through KPI, incentivization. We often think that everything that Xi Jinping does or says is the law, and I guess it is, but he also sets in place certain frameworks which he wants governments at the lower levels, at the provincial level, or even at the municipal level, follow. And so I think that as his speech from the World AI Conference comes, we'll get an understanding of what really it means to the municipal and provincial level I think you're right. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. We will probably start to see leaders at the municipal and provincial level decide. I think that could be the future, but how it plays out in real terms, I think will be hard to understand.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, with all these neo labs nowadays, like if you think about it, right, in China, what you could do is raise some amount of money, grab one of these open source models, hire a bunch of really smart people from the local university, and then just start cracking, start trying some new stuff. Well, wonderful conversation, Tim. You've been listening to Supply Chain. I'm John from Asianometry.
I'm Tim Culpin from Culpium.
Have a good one.